Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Buffnagel the podcast, where we explore entertaining and enlightening discussions of the adventure of life and all things good. From science and technology to history and philosophy to leadership and success. We hope to give you a better understanding of the world and skills for everyone to pursue their own adventure.
Well, hi, everybody, and welcome back to Buffnagel the podcast, where we talk about all things good in the pursuit of the adventure of life. I am Rafe, and it's going to be a great Tuesday because, summer's here, and Tuesdays are podcast Tuesdays, regardless of the season that we're in. And you guys know you have made us, you are the greatest listeners in the world because you have made us a global top 10% podcast. As usual, feel free to send us a note at buffnagel at buffnagel.com. Remember to share the love, share the buff, give us a 5-star review, hit subscribe or like, or whatever it is on your podcast machine that tells us we're doing what we need to do to let you do what you are doing. Remember, tell a friend to listen and you will get a free episode somewhere buried in the show notes. You will find a link to buy me a coffee. Well, like I said, summer is here, at least in the meteorological sense. And in the sense that here in the U.S., we are past Memorial Day, so we are within our average 100 days of summer. But since this is 2026, we will actually get 107 days this year instead of the typical 99. So it's quite an exciting year, and we are when this drops, we should be on our way to doing that. Evidence of summer appears to be everywhere. The sun stays out longer. The plants are back fully leafed out, I think is the proper term. And there are flowers everywhere. Birds sing all the time. They get up very, very early in the morning. Early summer like this is a grand time, full of beauty, full of life, full of good things. And some of those things are flowers. And I mentioned that before. Flowers are out, and I was thinking of them the other day. And the word angiosperm came to mind, and that is a word that refers to some flowers. Angiosperms are essentially most flowering plants. They are plants that bear both flowers and fruits, and the seeds are actually born within the fruit. They're carried in the fruit. The term angiosperm comes from the Greek word angion, which is a container or a vessel, and the word sperma, which means seed, meaning that the seeds, like I said, are enclosed within a fruit. So that's kind of cool. And angiosperms are literally everywhere. They are most of the plants that you know, although not all of them. Wikipedia tells us exactly how prevalent they are, and I'm sure you can get this kind of information everywhere. There might be some subtle distinctions in some of these numbers here, but the numbers are so big that I think subtle counts off here or there is not going to be a problem. Angiosperms are by far the most diverse group of land plants, with 64 orders, 416 families, approximately 13,000 known genera, and 300,000 known species. Now, if you remember your counting there, your what do they call it? The taxonomy orders. Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species, 64 orders, 416 families, 13,000 genera, that's this genuses, and 300,000 known species of angiosperms. They include all forbs. You know what a forb is? F-O-R-B-S. Flowering plants without a wooden stem. Did not know that. Grasses and grass-like plants. A vast majority of broadleafed trees, shrubs, and vines, and most aquatic plants are angiosperms. Angiosperms are distinguished from other major seed plant clade, the gymnosperms, by having flowers, xylem consisting of vessel elements instead of tracheids, endosperm within their seeds, and fruits that completely envelop the seeds. Ancestors of flowering plants diverged from the common ancestor of all living gymnosperms before the end of the Carboniferous period, over 300 million years ago. In the Cretaceous, angiosperms diversified explosively, becoming the dominant group of plants across the planet. Agriculture And we all are interested in that because we love to eat. Agriculture is almost entirely dependent on angiosperms, and a small number of flowering plants. Plant families supply nearly all plant-based food and nearly all livestock feed. Rice, maize or corn, and wheat provide half of the world's staple calories intake, and all three plants are cereals from the Poaceae family, colloquially known as grasses. Other families provide important industrial plant products such as wood, paper, and cotton, and they supply numerous ingredients for drinks, sugar production, traditional medicine, and modern pharmaceuticals. Flowering plants are commonly grown for decorative purposes as well, with certain flowers playing significant cultural roles in many societies. Angiosperms are what we think of when we think of plants most of the time. They have, like I said, they have flowers and fruits that contain seeds, and that's not all plants. Okay, so there are three basic types of non-flowering plants. As I mentioned before in the Wikipedia thing, there are gymnosperms or naked seeds. These have seeds, but they are exposed rather than included inside of fruit. They include conifers like pines, spruces, cedars, redwoods, and junipers. They include the ginkgo tree. I don't know if you know those. You've seen those trees, but they have parallel veined leaves, so they're a very ancient kind of tree. And cycads, which are tropical palm-looking plants. These are all gymnosperms. 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 All right. And then the next group is ferns and such. I know ferns look like regular plants, but they don't produce seeds. They actually produce spores, which is interesting. Things like molds do spores and fungi do spores. Okay. So ferns are kind of like that. And then there are bryophytes, which are non-vascular plants. So they don't have specialized tissue for transporting water and nutrients. Now, angiosperms have xylem, with XYLEM, which is like a tube that carries water. The bryophytes don't have any specialized tubes to carry water. They include things like mosses, liverworts, and hornworts. So if you look at mosses, they don't have tubes that carry water and food and stuff around inside them. So they are non-vascular plants. So there are lots of non-flowering plants, but there are absolutely tons of angiosperms. And what strikes me as amazing is the incredible diversity of this design of flowers and fruited seeds. So just for example, there are over 32,000 species of the family Asteraceae. This is aster. Okay, these are called asters. Okay, so flowers you may know here are asters, daisies, composites, sunflowers. Okay, these are pretty standard flowers. These are the flowers you learn to draw when you're a little kid. They are round. They have seeds on the front and petals around the outside. But there are 32,000 species of those. 32,000 of them. The family of orchids, okay, beautiful orchids, contain nearly 22,000 species. Most of them are in jungles. A lot of them actually live in trees. They grow in trees. Peas and legumes are another 19,000 species. Coffee that you drink in the morning from the beans, which are the seeds of this plant. The coffee plant belongs to a family with 13,000 species. There are three basic families of grasses. There are Poaceae with 10,000 species. There are Cyberaceae with 4,000 species. And Juncaceae with about 400 species. 5 grasses, rice, wheat, maize, barley, and sugarcane cover nearly 50% of the world's arable land. Okay, so if there is developed agricultural land, almost half of it is covered by rice, wheat, maize, barley, or sugarcane. Those are grasses, and they are angiosperms. Okay, in total, there are over 400 families of angiosperms. We mentioned that earlier. There's 416. Okay, and I find this to me is mind-boggling. The incredible diversity of this system of flowering plants and how they work with their seeds and how they. I mean, once you build a system that does a good job, it replicates and becomes it becomes ubiquitous, I guess. And angiosperms did that back in the Cretaceous or whatever it was that we said back, hundreds of millions of years ago. They became the dominant plant on the planet. And in these days of global homogenization of our human culture, this diversity of plants to me is absolutely overwhelming. And as a snarky side question, what comes to my mind is AI really the way we want to go when natural forces have produced this diversity of plant life that is jaw dropping? And that brings me to a movie, right? And you probably saw this was coming here in a little bit. You'll see why in a little bit. There are going to be some spoilers here to the movie. It's an old movie. You probably won't watch it because I don't know. Maybe you will. I think it was kind of funny. I watched it just the other day to reacquaint myself with it. It had been at least 40 years since I had seen it last. So I have spoilers in here. I'm sorry. I can't tell the story and make the point I need to make without the spoilers. So in 1981, Terry Gilliam, with writing help from Michael Palin, both of Monty Python fame, they wrote, produced, and directed a British fantasy adventure film called Time Bandits. And I saw this film in high school, I think, or maybe in college, or maybe after college. I don't know, but I saw it probably in the 80s sometime. And it was an interesting film because I had never seen anything quite like it at the time. The film is the story of a young boy named Kevin who loves to study history, in particular the study of ancient Greece. His parents are his terrible parents, his bad parents. They sit around and they watch TV and they lust over the newest kitchen-based technology. So there's a lot of references in the movie to who's got the fastest microwave and whose oven can clean itself, and it's kind of a running joke, but it's also a theme. It's a theme that there's a technology lust, I guess, back there. One night, Kevin is in his room, in his bed, going to sleep, and a horse and a knight. Okay, so a horse with a knight on his back. They bust out of his wardrobe, his closet in his bedroom. They leap over Kevin's bed and then ride off into a forest where Kevin's bedroom wall used to be. So Kevin's sleeping there, and this horse and the rider come flying. It's kind of a scary scene if you don't, it's coming now, so it's not going to be quite as scary to you. But the horse kind of rears up and jumps around and makes noise, and the guy wields a sword, and they go jumping over Kevin's bed, and then they go running off into the woods. And and then it kind of quiets down, and Kevin gets up, and he turns on the light, and he inspects things, and he sees that nothing is damaged, nothing has changed, and it was a very strange occurrence, and he wonders if he was dreaming or what. He does find on the wall of his bedroom has drawings and pictures and things that he has as a young boy, and one of the pictures is a picture of a road through a wood, and it seems to me that kind of it seems to the viewer and to Kevin and to me, therefore, that the knight and the horse have ridden down through that road. But it's kind of they never tell you exactly what happened here. But the guy rode through that, rode off into the woods, and that was that. All right. So the next night, Kevin's kind of intrigued by this sort of thing, and the next night he goes to bed early with a flashlight and a Polaroid camera at the ready. And he's got them in a satchel of some kind, and he waits there, and as he's dozing off, he hears noise coming from the wardrobe, but instead of a knight, this time a half dozen dwarves pop out of the wardrobe. These are this is all live action stuff, so I don't know, I think we for a while we called them little people or dwarves or midgets. I apologize, I don't know the right word. They're called dwarfs in all the writing I've seen from the 80s. I will use that term. They pop out, and they're dressed in all sorts of strange clothes. They look ill-fitted for life in 1980s England, But anyway, they kind of come out, and they are looking. They tell Kevin they're looking for a way out of the room. They assume he knows the way out, and Kevin's very confused. He doesn't know what they mean by way out. They seem to be looking for some sort of portal, and they have with them some kind of a map. And eventually, they start pushing on one of the walls, the wall where the other guys, where the knight and the horse rode through. They push on the wall, and it gives way. It slides down. The wall slides down a corridor, and like a tunnel. And Kevin joins the dwarves as clouds and a floating head come out of the wardrobe as well. So the floating head in the clouds is chasing the 6 dwarves, and now Kevin down this portal through Kevin's room. It's just very wacky stuff. The floating head is the supreme being. It is God that is chasing them. Okay, the floating head chases them, demanding that they have stolen that what they have stolen be returned. And what they have stolen, of course, is this map. And this will be explained in a second. The tunnel ends in a dark, empty void. Eventually, the wall gives way, and there's just a square hole into blackness. And the dwarves and Kevin fall through there and plummet down. And I think probably at this point you would break for commercial. But then when you come back, they actually fall into Italy in 1796 at Napoleon's Battle of Castiglione. Right, so they have moved through time somehow. It's a time travel kind of thing. They've moved through time and through space. The dwarves, like I said, there are 6 of them. There's a leader who is Randall, and there are 5 other ones: Fidget, Strutter, Og, Wally, and Vermin. They reveal that they used to be employed by the Supreme Being to fix holes that are left from creation. Apparently, creation was done in 6 days. It was kind of a rush job. So there's some certain things that weren't quite done yet, or think of it like a punch list. Okay, so there's a punch list, and these guys have been hired by the Supreme Being to travel around and fix them. And the map apparently reveals holes that allow you to get to move around and do this kind of work. Okay, it allows them to do what they were supposed to do, but these guys get the clever idea that they're going to steal the map and use it to become thieves and rob the great treasures of history and become filthy, stinking rich, is what they say. So that's the premise: is that these guys are now robbers. They are running around they're running around creation with this map that allows them to go through space and through time. And so it's a jolly funny thing, at least from my perspective. It was in 1981 when I was they'd make me about 16. That was it was very funny. Randall describes the map like this. He said, the Supreme Being made the big stuff, good and evil, men and women, night and day, and we did trees and shrubs. And then we got the sack, meaning we got demoted or fired for making a bad tree, 600 feet high, bright red, and smelled terrible. As punishment, they were sent to the repair department. But then, of course, at that point, they stole the map, and they have become thieves. So they go to Napoleon has won the war, the battle here of Castiglione, and they grab the treasure. They get him drunk, and they grab the treasure, and they escape through a portal, and they end up in the medieval forest, and they meet Robin Hood. Robin Hood, of course, takes their money, gives it away, and so they're going through all sorts of things. Eventually, they get separated, and Kevin makes his way to ancient Greece, and it makes him very, very happy because he's in ancient Greece, and he meets Agamemnon, the king, and he inadvertently helps Agamemnon defeat a Minotaur, and then he finds that Agamemnon, played by Sean Connery, is a much better father than his own father back home. His own father back home is just a terrible dad. If you want to, he's a mushy dad. He has no substance. Okay. And then of course, Kevin compares him to Sean Connery as Agamemnon, and he's immediately hooked. Eventually the dwarves show up and they rescue Kevin from this life, that he really, really wants. Kevin's a little upset, but they escape, and they escape through a portal, and they end up landing on the Titanic on the day of its sinking in 12, 14, 18, something like that. Maybe 1912. I'm going to go with 1912. That's my final answer. I'll look it up later. So they get rescued, and they're on the Titanic. And so the movie kind of goes like this, that they're going around robbing people, and the plot is being revealed as they do this. And and as time goes on, you come to realize that the evil one, he's just called the evil one. You can think of him as Satan or the devil or Lucifer or whatever. He's your classic bad evil. He's got horns and a big cape, and he's dressed all in black and red, and he's nasty and but stupid at the same time. All right, he's been monitoring their adventures by looking in some sort of like crystal ball kind of thing. It's a pot filled with some sort of ghoulish water. He monitors them, and because he's hoping to steal the map and then rule the world. And this is where you get to see a picture of how the evil one sees the world and how he sees creation, and why this movie, Time Bandits from 1981, is relevant to today's discussion in 2026. He, of course, has very dim-witted minions who are just are a level of stupid that is below anything you've seen. They're not funny little minions like the little yellow minions in the movies that you see in the cartoon movies. So this is all live action actors. There's a lot of Monty Python-esque special effects, so kind of strange. Like it's kind of weak special effects, but it adds to the what should I say? I'll call it the nuance of the movie. It creates a certain theme and an element that you're not supposed to take it too seriously. So he has his dim-witted minions, and he's talking to them, and he says to them, "When I have the map, I will be free, and the world will be different because I have understanding of digital watches. Soon I shall have understanding of video cassette recorders and car telephones and computers. Then I will be the supreme being." So this guy's absolutely nuts, and he's focused on technology, and of course he's focused on the technology of the day. Okay, digital watches were a thing, 1981. And this was probably made earlier than that. The movie came out in 81. I'm sure they start this thing in 79 or 80. Video cassettes were a thing. Car telephones were a thing. Computers were just coming into being. He is interested in tech. The evil one is interested in tech. He carries on. God isn't interested in technology. He cares nothing for microchips or the Silicon Revolution. Look how he spends his time. 43 species of parrots, nipples on men, slugs. He created slugs. They can't hear, they can't speak, they can't operate machinery. Are we not in the hands of a lunatic? If I were creating a world, I wouldn't mess around with butterflies and daffodils. I would start with lasers. 8 o'clock, day one. Right, so that is full of a number of catchphrases at that point. Lasers, 8 o'clock, day one is kind of a catchphrase in our household, meaning we want to get started right away. But he's talking. He talks about 43 species of parrots, which is that is a thing that if you are just interested in efficiency and technological prowess, having 43 different species of parrots, creating things like slugs, butterflies, and daffodils doesn't seem like it's going to get you anywhere. And the Supreme Being has created those kinds of things. And the evil one says, no, that's a bad idea. I'm not going to do that. I would start with lasers, 8 o'clock, day one. So the evil one is able to kind of work himself into the minds of the dwarves that are running around the world through space and time, and he directs them to a place called the Time of Legends, and the Fortress of Ultimate Darkness, where inside he makes them believe that there is the most fabulous object in the world. It's the greatest thing man could ever want, the goal of everyone's hopes and dreams. So obviously, who would not want the most fabulous object in the world? So they seek to do that. Okay, of course, the evil one is tricking them. The most fabulous object in the world turns out to just be a fabulous kitchen ensemble. All right, it is. They get close. The evil one steals the map and locks them in a cage over a bottomless pit. But the dwarves and Kevin use one of Kevin's Polaroids that he has been taking along the way, and they discover they actually have a copy of the map in one of the Polaroids. They use it to escape the cage, and then they go battle the evil one. Of course, they're going to battle the evil one because he now has the map. Okay, and of course, they are no match for the evil one. He has power of all the technology. He has, he's got lasers, and he shoots fire out of his fingers, and he does magic, and he does evil things. And he shuts them down handily, and he's ready to completely destroy poor little Kevin. But instead, right at the peak moment, okay, here's a spoiler. At the peak moment, he explodes in a ball of fire and becomes simply a smoldering mass of blackish, grayish, ashy rock. And it turns out that God has shown up, and he has saved the day. And God is he's not John Gielgud, but he's that other guy who looks kind of like John Gielgud, and he talks very sophisticated, and he's wearing a very nice suit, and he's an elderly gentleman, but he's very serious about how he does things, and but he's British, so that's kind of a funny thing. So God comes up, he saves the day, and he instructs them. Well, this is all a mess here. There's one thing I can't stand. It's a mess. He says, do be careful, clean this stuff up, put all this. Okay, so the Supreme Being has the evil one has like become this black rock. This just junk. It looks like basalt, and it's kind of smoldering. And God instructs them to take all this rock and put it in this dumpster, and make sure it gets all in there. And he says, be careful with that. It's concentrated evil. Don't lose any of that stuff. One drop of that could turn you all into hermit crabs, which is kind of a funny little statement, but that is evil. That stuff is evil, and we don't want to let it get out. Get it in this dumpster. Let's get this place cleaned up. So they clean things up, and they get most of the stuff, but a couple of these pieces rolled underneath stuff. Okay, and they're in the fortress of ultimate darkness now, which is very interesting, because over the course of the movie, the fortress of extreme darkness has started to look more and more like the floor of Kevin's room. Okay, there's Lego blocks, and there's toy soldiers, and they're all like all the stuff that's in Kevin's mind of things that he fantasizes when he plays. They're all that stuff kind of shows up here. So there's this mixing of what's real to Kevin versus what's real in the battle of good and evil. So they clean some things up, and God recovers the map, and he dusts it off and puts it in his pocket, and he collects the dwarves, and he says, we have to get back to work. He informs Kevin that Kevin asks him, why do we have evil? And he says, I think it has something to do with free will. That's not a great explanation, I don't think, but it's technically true. I mean, what do you expect from a bunch of British comedians? I mean, this is not a theological movie. Okay, that's the story. There's some free will, and because of that, there is evil. And the movie gets they say that God created evil. I think we would probably disagree with that, but hey, it's a movie. All right, there's JP2 said that you will find truth where you will find it, and if it is true, you ought to go along with the truth. So God explains that there's free will. The concept of free will results in there being evil, and but God's in a hurry. He says, "Come on, hurry up, let's go. We have to get back. But we have to get back to creation." He says, "I mustn't waste any more time. They will think I've lost control again, and they will put it all down to evolution," which is kind of a funny little statement. The dwarves ask, "Can Kevin come?" He says, "No, he cannot. Of course not. This is not a school outing. He's got to stay here to carry on the fight," which is there's a good little piece of theology for you if you want it. Okay, so God and the dwarves leave. They leave Kevin in the room. Smoke starts filling the room. Kevin wakes up, and he is in his bed, and smoke is filling his bedroom because his house is on fire. The firemen come and rescue him. He gets out. His parents get out. His parents are standing there in their bathrobe looking at their house being destroyed, and they are dismayed that their fantastic kitchen has been destroyed. The firemen point out that the source of the fire is some sort of toaster oven. It's a little handheld oven, and inside of the toaster oven is a smoldering mass of blackish, grayish, rocky ash. It's a chunk. It's a chunk of the evil, okay? The mom and dad look at the smoldering mass of blackish, grayish, rocky ash. Kevin shouts at them, "Do not touch it. Mom, Dad, that is evil. Do not touch that." Of course, they look at him. They don't say anything. They look back at the rock. And of course, they touch it because that's what we do, right? That's humanity right there. And of course, as they touch it, they are destroyed in a flash. The fire is out. It's smoldering a little bit. One of the firemen is Sean Connery, back from Agamemnon days. And firemen drive away, leaving Kevin all alone while the credits roll. And I hear that I was reading some things about this film that some people were a little worried that the ending was a little dark, but audiences seemed to like it, so they kept it. And there we are. So how do these things relate? How do Angiosperms and Summer, and how does that relate to Time Bandits, the movie? Here's some thoughts. The evil one is interested in technology, and that's a running theme throughout the story. He mocks God, like I said, for making slugs who cannot hear or speak or operate machinery. He wants lasers at 8:00, day one. God, on the other hand, makes 43 species of parrots. And I think of that a lot. And when I started doing the Angiosperms research thing, I went over to the Wikipedia page on parrots and found out there's actually over 400 species of parrots, not 43. They're only off by a factor of 10. That's a lot of species of parrots, okay? And I think about this when I think about angiosperms and the hundreds of thousands of flowering plants. I've talked in the past about the infinitude of the variety of the good, how good continually blossoms and rearranges and produces unsurpassed variety. Music, literature, painting, flowers, animals, the electromagnetic spectrum, people, parrots, and angiosperms. Goodness grows and grows into a remarkable level of variety. Meanwhile, the evil one is limited. Technology, car telephones, VCRs, and computers. Lasers. Okay, lasers might be the quintessential antithesis of variety, as a laser seeks to emit a single wavelength of light, all in phase. Okay, that's what gives it its power, right? Making light essentially monochromatic. It is anything but varied. Now, you can get different lasers of different colors because the spectrum's unlimited there, but the laser itself is just one. There's nothing interesting about that. Right? It is anything but varied. Of course, like I said, you can make different colored lasers, and they do to do different things with different energy amounts. So God makes 43 species of parrots, and the evil one focuses on technology. God is concerned about all things. He cares about those who cannot speak, and those who cannot hear, and those who cannot operate machinery. He messes around with butterflies and daffodils, and he worries in particular about you. The most fabulous object in the world apparently is a piece of kitchen technology, as if that is what we seek to have. The parents in the movie are constantly trying to get the best and the greatest tech. They complain that their kitchen can make food go from a block of ice to ready to eat in seconds, but their neighbor can do it actually in half the time, so they're worried that they're not up to speed. They're always chasing the tech. And Kevin wants to learn about ancient Greece. So there's a real division there between what Kevin wants and what his parents want, and it's very interesting in the end when the evil one is trying to get everybody to to try to induce them to get to the most fabulous object in the world. The devil takes the form of the game show host from TV, and the sidekicks for the game show host turn out to be Kevin's mother and father, dressed in some sort of sparkly clothes to get you to, all you have to do is hand over the map and you can get the most fabulous object in the world. Concentrated evil in the film is a smoldering clump of blackish, grayish, ashy rock. In fact, if you take things, whatever they are, and you destroy them, that's pretty much what you get. You get that regardless of what you start with. Anybody can destroy things. It takes goodness to create them. Destruction is a 0 point. There are no negative numbers in creation. You can't go a little bit destroyed, and then more and more and more. Like you just reach randomness, entropy, just dirt, dust, gray. We've talked about this too. There is good and there is absence of good, just like there is heat and absence of heat, and there is light and absence of light. The good is good, and the evil one is just a clump of blackish, grayish, ashy rock. That's what evil looks like. It's just nothing. All right. And that's a great way to think about how evil is different than good. It's just the absence of good. It is just good. It's like no good. It's not negative good. It's no good. In the end, God says as he leaves, he says, come on then back to creation. He is constantly creating, constantly making all things new, bringing about more beauty, more truth, more goodness. Every morning to you is springtime. You get early summer essentially every day. And you, as Imago Dei, are charged with aiding in this creation, just as Kevin is assigned with carrying on the fight. Go out and appreciate the hundreds of thousands of species of angiosperms and the 400 or so species of parrots. All creation around you is a miracle. Without creation, everything is simply a formless void, a cold clump of blackish, grayish, ashy rock. Do your part by chasing truth, beauty, and goodness. Seek the good, live virtuously, and flourish, and enjoy the adventure of life.
It's going to be a great day.